I wondered if it would happen. I figured it would happen. And then it happened. Hey, welcome back to the Oak and Ember Podcast, men. I am the host, Garrett Hines. Man, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be in this chair at the table that I don't like very much, drinking coffee and talking to you guys. Man, so here's the deal. There's a thing that I want to talk about, and the quick comment's going to be like this long today. You may have noticed a slight gap in episodes. Dropped a bunch of content on September 1st, a couple weeks after that, and then went dark side of the moon. And I'm going to talk about why that is here in a second. But before we get into that, the big thing right now in national politics is this ridiculous, absurd spending bill. And that's all I have to say about it. $3.5 trillion. I can't even, here's the deal. I'm not great at economics and national money spending and all that stuff. If you really want a solid breakdown on why this deal is terrible, ridiculous, I can't, my words aren't even very good. I'm so frustrated with the deal. But if you want a good breakdown on what this deal is and why it's so bad, then go check out the Ben Shapiro show. Last week, several episodes talked about why the economics of this are horrible, why people are lying to you. Nancy Pelosi has said several times, former Vice President Biden has said this several times. Sorry, I got that from somebody else, and I like the way he says it. Anyways, like they say, this is a zero-cost bill, and it's paid for. That's stupid. Who believes that? No. But if you want to know why it's a no and why this deal is terrible, go check out the Ben Shapiro show. This is free plug. I'm not getting sponsored or anything. As cool as that would be. Go check it out. Go check out last week's episodes. He breaks it down why this thing is atrocious. We shouldn't be spending money like this as a nation. This is ridiculous. Stop it. Stop. Quit. We have other things to do besides spend trillions of dollars on social programs that will never go away. When was the last time government gave up control? Hello. 2 years later to flatten the curve. Okay, so with that said, we're going to jump into today's deal. And it's not really every man needs a thing. It's not that so much today. I want to talk about my COVID experience. So the gap in between episodes is because I got COVID and ended up in the hospital. And I have really wrestled with whether or not to even talk about this in the podcast, because my concern is that people could or would use this episode as a reason to propagate bad ideas. Because yes, I am in the 30-year-old age bracket. I'm very healthy. I do everything possible to take care of my body, my mind, and my spirit. Do everything possible. All the things. And I still ended up in the hospital. Am I vaccinated? No. I recognize that's part of the deal. The majority of people that, from what I understand, the majority of people that end up in the hospital end up there because they're unvaccinated. That's as I understand it. I could be wrong about that. And statistics are changing. You look at the numbers out of Australia, it's even hard to talk about COVID because the overlords at YouTube and you say the wrong thing one time and they're going to censor you, which is a wild reality that we live in. How are we censoring the public forum? Anyways, that's another quick comment for another day. So here's my experience. the middle of September, I woke up with a fever, which is that's not normal for me. I don't get sick. In the last 3 years, I have not taken a sick day for being sick. I don't get sick. I have this thing that happens in September, October, where at the end of September, 1st of October, my energy level drops. I get super boogery, usually because fall's rolling in, so there's cedar and some other stuff that bothers me. I get boogery for a few days. I take a decongestant, and I'm right as rain. Okay? So I 3 years I have not had a fever. So I woke up with a fever, and I thought, oh, that's interesting and new, and I'm a little concerned about that. So I took a sick day. And I thought, my kids had recently both had a fever, and they were around a bunch of kids. Their fever broke after like 12 hours. I mean, it was nothing. It was barely a blip on their radar. And so I thought, well, I'll just wake up the next morning and I'll be fine. I'll go back to work. Well, I didn't wake up fine. I had a fever, and my body was starting to hurt. And because I work in public education in my 9 to 5, I went to the doctor and got tested. I've been around a lot of kids, been around a lot of teachers, and I don't want to get anybody sick, and I hate wearing a mask. That's my personal opinion. I don't like wearing a mask. I have some thoughts and opinions about masks, but I don't want to get kicked off YouTube. So I went and got tested, did a rapid test here in town. It took an hour and a half to find a place that had a test. That was crazy. And part of it is I didn't want to take the PCR test, the like 2 to 3 day test, because some things that I have read and heard from people that are doing a better job of reading the numbers and the statistics and all that. There's some concerns about false positives. See, my brain is... anyways, I'll get into the side effects here in a minute. So I didn't want to take a PCR test because I didn't want the potential for a false positive. And I finally found a place in town that had a rapid test. So I took my rapid test. Sure enough, tested positive for COVID. Now I got to quarantine for 10 days. Went home. I got a quarantine from my wife. I got a quarantine from my kids. So I'm stuck in my bedroom by myself watching Netflix. And from then on, my fever stuck around. I had a fever for 8 days. In the mornings, it was like low grade, like 9900. And then almost to the minute, around between 4 and 4:30 in the afternoon, my fever would spike 101, 102, and I'd feel miserable, and it wouldn't go down till 8, 9 o'clock at night. And that was while taking ibuprofen and Tylenol to try and manage the fever. My body felt like I had been hit by a semi that turned around and hit me again. Like every fiber of my being hurt. But technically, like I was a mild case, according to the doctors. And one of the reasons I really wanted to film this podcast was because I'm really frustrated with how hard it is to find people's experiences of what COVID was like for them. Recovery in mild cases. And it's hard, like maybe I'm just not good at finding stuff about COVID. That's entirely possible. But it seemed like a mountain to climb to try and find anything. I found one article from a guy that talked about his mild COVID experience and how rough it was. So I really wanted to film this podcast so that I could put this out there for people, who are in the middle of trying to make it through their COVID experience and everything sucks, because that's where I was. I was running a fever every day. Everything hurt, and I'm completely isolated from my family. Like I'm having to look at my kids through the doorway, and I can hear my kids having a rough time, feeling their feelings, and there's nothing I can do about it because I'm laid up in bed and I'm absolutely miserable. So that was the first 7 days. Then I found out about the monoclonal antibody treatment. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm not trying to get targeted by the YouTube overlords. But I heard about the treatment. I was getting worse, not better. And I figured, what I understand, it can't hurt me. So I went to an ER here in town. There's a fire ant on my foot. Shoot. Ouch. I went to an ER here in town. I have put my foot off the ground. And I got a monoclonal antibody treatment. This is the problem. No, we're okay. All right. I got the monoclonal antibody treatment, and while I was in the ER, they also told me that they did x-rays, and they told me that I had the beginnings of pneumonia, or they called it early stage pneumonia. Now, how you have early stage pneumonia and pneumonia, I don't understand that. But they said I had early stage pneumonia, which stinks, and gave me some medicine, sent me home. That was on a Wednesday, and 3 days later I was in the hospital. Now, I think personally that the antibody treatment helped me make it those extra 3 days, because I really, really did not want to go to the hospital. It's going to cost us money. There's the whole insurance deal. We're trying to save for a new house. I mean, it's just all this stuff, and I really didn't want to go to the doctor. Didn't want to go to the hospital. But by Saturday, so I went and got the antibody treatment on Wednesday. Thursday I started, it's kind of the same. Friday I was coughing really bad. And by Saturday I was not just coughing, but I was coughing. Sorry, this little graphic warning. Started coughing up phlegm, and then almost immediately started coughing up phlegm with blood in it. And my O2 started to drop. So I have a pulse oximeter because I wasn't getting any better after a week. I was monitoring my oxygen. And the problem was the first week I felt so terrible. I wasn't eating and I was barely drinking. So, I didn't have any energy. And then my oxygen started to drop, and I was having a hard time expending the energy to keep my oxygen from falling. So I would get up, go to the bathroom, come back to my bed, and my oxygen would drop. And then I'd have to work really hard to build oxygen for 10, 15 minutes. And then I'd be okay. And then I would do something, oxygen would drop. I'd have to work real hard to build it up. And I just didn't have the energy. And I was coughing really bad. So finally, my beloved wife comes in and says, "You're not doing well. I need you to do something. Go to a doctor. You're not getting better. I can't help you. This is getting worse. We need to do something." Pause. So she says, "We need to do something." And I said, "Okay, you're right. We've got to do something." So grabbed my backpack, got in the car, drove to a local hospital. Actually, I called the ER to say, "Hey, if I come back, what's going to happen?" They said, "Well, we'll have to transfer you out of state because everybody here is full." Now, I don't know if they're telling me the truth or not. I don't know if every hospital here is full, but that's what they said, so I didn't go there. I did go to another hospital that a friend of mine, her husband had been really sick. He went to the hospital. They had a good experience, so I went there. So I went to that hospital, and looking back, it's kind of funny now because I got to the front desk and the lady said, I guess I looked pretty terrible, because she said, "Do you think you have COVID?" And I said, "No, ma'am, I know I have COVID, and I know I have pneumonia, and I can't breathe. Please help me." So I sat down. She got me a nurse. I think I waited for 5 minutes. It wasn't very long at all. All I know is that when I said I can't breathe, her eyes got disciplined, for which I'm thankful. So I got into an ER. They took some x-rays. They gave me IV fluids, and I waited there for a while. And then they did a CT scan, and they moved me into my inpatient room. And that was about midnight. My nurse came in, and she said, "Good news, you don't have any blood clots," because that was a big concern. Even my dad was, really choked up about the possibility I might have blood clots, because blood clots are bad deal. You don't want blood clots in your lungs. That's terrible. So thankfully I didn't have any blood clots in my lungs, but the nurse said that my lungs looked like somebody had been throwing handfuls of shattered glass into my lungs, which made sense as to why I was struggling to breathe. So they put me on oxygen. I kind of joked about how much oxygen they should put me on. And then they turned the lights out, said goodnight, and moved on. And I mean, almost instantly, as soon as the nurse left and the door closed, I started freaking out. I'm in a hospital. like, I'm in bad shape. Are my kids okay? Is my wife okay? The mental game when you get that sick with anything, but right now the big thing is COVID. When you get that sick and you're isolated, the mental game is the worst. All the physical stuff, when you're a mild case, yes, it's bad, it's terrible, it doesn't feel good. But the stuff that went on in my head was horrible. Just the thoughts were forever long. I don't even have words to describe the kind of mental stuff that I was having to deal with. So I was freaking out. I buzzed the nurse. And here's the deal. Like, I made it a point, once I was in the hospital, the only thing I could control at that point was how I treated my nurses. That was it. I couldn't control when or how I went to the bathroom. I couldn't control when or how I was going to breathe or what medicine, or like, everything for me felt out of control. And the only thing I felt like I could control was how I treated the people that were taking care of me. So I got to know everybody's name. And I said thank you every time they came in the room and every time they left. So my nurse comes in, and I told her, like, I'm freaking out. I can't go to sleep. I'm exhausted, but I can't get my brain to shut off. I'm so tired, and but I'm losing my mind. What do I do? What do I do? I've never been in this situation before. What do I do? And she stepped out. She came back in. She said, hold on one second. And she said, okay, the doctor said I can give you 50 milligrams of IV Benadryl. I don't know if that's the right thing for my body. I don't know, but I needed something that was going to help me sleep. And this sweet nurse was telling me this would help me sleep. So I said, okay, hit me. Boom, put it in the IV. And she did. And I mean, like, instantly, boom, I was gone, man. There's probably some, I know the doctors and nurses out there could tell me why that is. All I know is it was sweet relief, and I slept for about 5 hours until they had to do the rounds of the check your vitals and do all the things. But I was in the hospital for 6 days. Now, that's a week, okay? And I know that there are people out there who are still in the hospital and you've been there 2 weeks. You're still in the hospital, you've been there a month. I know 6 days by comparison is short, but it was what my experience was. And the thing about it was every day the pattern was the same, and except for the nurses coming in, I was by myself. Me and freaking cable TV. And so the pattern became take my IV Benadryl at night, sleep for about 5 hours, get my vitals checked at 3:30, get my blood drawn out of a vein in my hand at 4:30, vitals at 5:30, lay in bed until 8 to try and sleep off and on, wake up, lay in bed for a couple of hours, and try to overcome the mental game. Because every morning I would wake up and I'd think about the same things. How is this going to hurt us financially? What is this doing to my body? Am I going to recover? When I do recover, how long is that going to take? Am I going to be able to get back to normal life? I can barely talk right now. Am I going to be able to do any of the normal things? Like, all of these thoughts just cycle through my brain for a couple of hours until finally I got some breakfast. 10 o'clock, I'd turn on cable TV, watch the same 7 stupid commercials that were either trying to sell me pizza or some kind of medical prescription for some random weird thing. I can't even tell you what it was for. So do all that, experience all that, and then lay in bed, pee in a bottle, and breathe oxygen. When I woke up the first morning, they told me they'd put me on 10. I think I may say this wrong, so let me know in the comments if I'm doing this wrong, because I'd like to learn. They put me on 10 liters of oxygen. And because I was really struggling to breathe through my nose, they put me in the mask. Now, I was never ventilated. Okay, never had a ventilator, which I'm very thankful for. But I was breathing a lot of what felt like a lot of oxygen. And they put the mask thing on me. So, like mealtime, I'm doing the whole put a bite in, and that was irritating. In the 6 days I was in the hospital, I showered once, I brushed my teeth 2 times. Not 2 days, 2 times. Because I just did not have the energy to do it. I was out. Every morning I got a an IV steroid, a shot in my stomach for blood clots. I got a round of IV medicine, remdesivir. I got IV Benadryl at night, an antibiotic for a few days. I just got a bunch of different medicines. And the funny thing about the steroid, I think it's funny because, you know, they tell me everybody has a different response to this deal. And when I would get my IV Benadryl, almost instantly, the top of my scalp would itch. Like somebody, I can't even explain. It just itched. Then it would travel down and it would make my, buttocks itch. Thankfully, it only lasted for 30 seconds to a minute. I mean, it wasn't a very long deal, but it was weird, man. Like, whoa. Weird. It was a weird feeling. I can't even describe it. So I did that every day, and every day I would talk to the doctor, and every day I would ask, can I go home today? I hope I could go home today. And the problem was not so much the COVID virus, but I had reached a point where my lungs were in such bad shape that sitting down, I could hold a normal level of oxygen. You know, they say normal is on an oximeter is like 95 to 100. I could hold 92, 93 and be fine, but even just standing up to urinate, my oxygen would drop. And it was a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, where I would stand up to pee and my nurse tech would come in and be like, Mr. Hines, did you stand up to go to the bathroom? And I'd say, yeah, I did. They say, oh, well, okay. All right, then you're okay because your oxygen dropped really low. I had a little monitor, showed all my stats and stuff. I asked them to put that thing on private so I couldn't see the numbers because every time I saw the numbers, I'd panic. I'd be like, oh my gosh. 4 or 5 days in, they took me on a walk around the hospital. That was unbelievably difficult. I'm thinking, yes, let's go for a walk. Woohoo. And like 2 minutes in, I'm having a hard time breathing. I can barely move. Like, it was ridiculous and really frustrating. So finally, day 6, I do all the medicines. They get me set up on home oxygen, and I get to go home. And I get to hug my kids for the first time in 3 weeks. I get to hug my wife, and I get to take a shower and brush my teeth. Like, that was the agenda for the afternoon. Get home, hug my family, clean my body. And even taking a shower after 6 days in the hospital took every ounce of energy that I had. And then it completely wiped me out. I went from the shower to the couch, sprawled out, and I slept for 30 minutes. Unbelievable. And for those of you out there who have been in the hospital longer than that, like I have so much empathy for what you're going through, because what that does to your body is so hard. And what you want to have happen isn't happening, and you're feeling the effects of it. And I'm so sorry that you're going through that. But I believe it will be okay, and I hope it'll be okay, and I hope that you recover. So if you're in the middle of this whole deal and you find this video, don't lose hope. Like, it can get better. Keep fighting. Keep pushing the dark thoughts away and find something to have hope in. Man, the sun is coming up. All right, we're going to have to fix the thing again. All right, that should be better. All right. So what I need to do at this point is bring it home. I've been out of the hospital for 4 weeks. As of today, it's been 4 weeks. It's been a month. And there's 2 things. You know, COVID is a terrible deal. It's a real deal. It's awful. I get that. But every tragedy, you know, Epictetus would say every situation is an opportunity for growth. And COVID did that for me. It was terrible, but some really good things came out of it. For example, I have learned what really matters to me. Like, what are the things that I actually value? And after having watched Netflix and cable TV for 3 weeks, I can tell you that I do not value digital media in general. I value educational media, like the people out there that are helping me learn how to do bushcraft and wood carving and the other things that I've learned out there. I value that, but I do not value entertainment for the sake of entertainment, for the mind numbingness that it, like, if you spend a lot of time watching TV, stop. Get outside, put your toes in the grass, do something productive. Because TV is not productive and it doesn't do any good. I am no better today for the hours of endless movies and television series that I watched than I am for playing in the yard with my kids. Get outside. So I learned what really matters to me, and I've journaled a ton. I talked about in one of my past videos about the value, past podcasts, I've talked about the value of journaling. And I have lived the reality of that. Journaling to me has become so valuable. It helped me get through that. It helped me process what I was going through. And the other thing is I have been given a deeper appreciation for living life. That sounds super dramatic, and in a sense it is kind of dramatic. I asked my nurse at one point, about halfway through, if I could have rode this thing out at home, because I really tried. For a week I suffered through fever and intense body pain, and I still didn't, the coughing, the blood, the whole deal. I really didn't want to go to the hospital. But the nurse said, no, if you would have stayed home, you would have gotten to a point where you were suffocating, we would have called an ambulance, you would have been ventilated. I thought, that sounds really bad, because the numbers on that are really bad. And I deeply appreciate the life that I've been given. Now, having said all of that, having experienced COVID, I'm not going to talk about whether or not you should get the vaccine. You should do what is best for you. I'm not going to talk about whether or not you should wear a mask. You should do what's best for you and your family and the life that you are living. What I am going to talk about is the stupid, ridiculous attempt by politicians to mandate how we should live our lives. Because no one has the right to do that. To the degree to which that they are trying to do so. And they are using COVID, and they are using people's lives and their fear and their suffering in order to propagate horrible ideas. That is wrong. COVID has killed a lot of people. COVID has made a lot of people like me and my wife suffer. And politicians are using the fear of that in order to take additional power and control, because that's all they're interested in. Here's the deal. Anybody on the left or the right who is telling you that they're doing this because they care about you is full of crap. And anybody on the left in positions of high authority in this country who are telling you they're trying to protect you, no, they're not. They really aren't, because there are other things that we could be doing to help take care of people that get COVID or prevent COVID that they're not doing and that they're not allowing because their buddies need to make more millions of dollars. So here's the thing. There are people out there using this situation in order to take power and take control. And that is what bothers me more than anything. And as a man, you need to be able to see that. You need to be able to see that what's happening in our country isn't for the good of people. And it's not to keep people safe. What it is an attempt to take control that they'll never give back. And that, from this COVID experience, like, I have a newfound desire to talk about that kind of stuff, because it's wrong. We should be out there helping people with whatever therapeutic is available. We should be allowing people to get whatever help they think is best for them. And if that's a vaccine, great. We've made it available. Way to go. Good job. If they want to wear a mask, wear a mask. But if they want to be free to do whatever they want, we should be allowing their freedom. Because if the vaccines work, then what are you afraid of? So, that was my COVID experience. Yes, I'm in the age group that shouldn't have to worry about a bad COVID experience. It happened to me. I'm not super pleased about it. But I'm thankful that I made it through, that my family made it through, and we are stronger for it. Now, recovery. I'm already running past how long I wanted this to go, but I want to talk about recovery. I've been out of the hospital for a month. The first week was miserable. I pretty much just slept and wore my oxygen. I tried to go back for a couple of days to work. I worked 2 days, and then the third day I ended up taking off and sleeping pretty much all day. Second day was better. And basically what I've seen is every week my lungs get better, my strength gets better. I can take full deep breaths. For the first 3 weeks, every time I took a deep breath, it felt like I hit a wall in my lungs, and I couldn't get past that wall. I couldn't breathe deeply. It took me 2 weeks before I could start doing yoga again. It took me 2 more weeks before I felt well enough to go to the gym. So, man, I'm so excited because tomorrow I'm going to the gym. I'm going to lift me some weights. I'm going to do some things in the gym. I'm going to feel good. I'm going to take care of my body. And I'm so excited about that. Every day I get stronger. That's what I tell people. How are you doing today? Man, every day I get stronger. And I hope for you out there, if you found this video, you're struggling through your COVID experience, take up that mantra and just speak it over yourself. Every day I get stronger. Do what you can to make it through. But don't give up hope. Because it can get better. Man, men out there, I hope that you found this episode video. I hope that see, that's part of the deal with COVID that I did not expect. My brain is not like processing all my words right. It's weird. I can't explain it sometimes. Anyways, I'm not going to get into all that. My point is, I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And until next time, get out there and live life to the fullest. Cheers, guys.